Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. The Landy Lodge has returned with episode 195, talking all things Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. The last couple weeks I was on the road a lot. As many of you know, I took the trip out to Dallas, Texas to be there for Kingdom Hearts Reconnect. And then right after that trip, my wife, dog, and I all headed back up to New York for a friend's wedding. So I've been on the road while all this FF7 stuff has come out. It's completely piled up on me. I'm so intimidated by all the information there is, to the point that I think I'm going to need 2 podcast episodes to go through it all. Again, you guys know I like to keep it around an hour and a half, 2 hours. We might need a full-fledged 4 hours to go over everything they dropped on us. I'm going to do my best to get through as much of it as possible while I'm here. Very happy to see some of the early birds hanging in the chat. Very happy to see you all here. Again, as you guys know, I've been on the road a couple weeks, but we're back in action now. Got this FF7 podcast dropping now. I've got an Aqua video that I've been working on real hard. It's taken me longer to get out than I thought, but that's because I'm being a little bit of a perfectionist on it. But anyway, without further ado, I think it's time that we dive on into it. I see Starlatte Studios, the best mod in the game, right beside Umbra, is here. It's going to be a good one. Okay, so look, here's how we're going to do this. First, I'm going to play the trailer. I've seen the trailer probably about 10 times at this point, but I want to go through it, kind of point out a lot of the cool things that I saw, and then from there, I want to go over some developer interviews, some interesting screenshots, some gameplay on the Calm and Chocobo breeding section. There's just so much. I want to start with the trailer and some developer interviews, and then we'll just take it from there. What do you say? Anyway, let's get on with it here. Let's play this trailer back. Again, there's a lot to talk about here. I'm going to pause it here and there. Again, just kind of want to give you guys my general thoughts since I didn't put a reaction video up or anything like that. So, yeah, let's get to it. And let me know how the volume is. Let me know if it's too loud, but I think we should be good. I think we should be good. Aqua deserves the TLC long treatment. Yeah, she does. She does. She deserves the perfectionism. Anyway, let's roll with it. Here's the new Rebirth trailer in all its glory. Let's break it down. Starting here.
The world's ending. At least, that's what everyone's saying.
Okay, so as you know, that's Elmira from the top. I don't know if you guys caught it, but Elmira is hanging right here. So she's hanging in the background. So obviously, Zack gets Cloud back to Midgar, and it looks to me like he takes him towards Aerith's house, that at least that's where he's headed. He probably bumps into Elmira, who gives him the scoop, and she's probably the one, in my opinion, who tells Zack to go to the church to look for Aerith. For those of you who played Intermission and we saw Zack go to the church, he probably goes here first, talks to Elmira. Elmira lets him know Aerith can probably be found at the church, and it goes from there. I also want to give Square a lot of credit. I know they love to play on the Zack the puppy motif. With Cloud on his back here, I don't know, I just get such a total puppy, doggy vibe from him. So it looks like they're really sinking into that with the body language too. But again, just right off the bat, we see Zack makes it back to Midgar. He bumps into Elmira, who kind of gives him the scoop. And yeah, I'll quit yapping. Let's retread and move on from there.
At least, that's what everyone's saying.
This sky, I don't like it.
Okay, so we know, and this is what I mean by there's so much, like line for line, there's something to talk about. So right here it says the world will be saved, but will you? So in the Japanese translation, that line is actually, will you be in the world I save? So to me, right away my head goes to Aerith. That in this way, this is Zack kind of talking to Aerith or talking about Aerith. That is the first thing that really comes to my mind. I suppose this could be from Cloud's viewpoint as well, probably also having to do with Aerith. Maybe this has something to do with Tifa. You know, maybe this has something to do with Tifa in the way she sees Cloud and, you know, sort of the doubts that are all surrounding Cloud. And I believe there was an interview where Nomura confirmed that it could be any of the sort of interpretations I've let out. But to me, it seems pretty obvious or a safe bet. This probably has to do with either Zack or Cloud in regards to Aerith. But again, let's keep moving, man. Cornflakes on Twitch says Zack carrying Cloud is less pupper and more Saint Bernard dog. Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. You know, I like the way you put that. Not quite a puppy. Now he's a herding dog. You know what I mean? He's a sleigh dog. Oh boy. Yosuke says the FF7 storyline, FF7R storyline is so rich, it's crazy. There's so much they can do, which makes it so exciting. You know, I always believed in their vision from the end of Remake, but in seeing the direction these trailers and all this information is taking Rebirth, I really feel like they took the right direction here. But anyway, let's keep it rolling. We're only 13 seconds in. How very Nomura of us. Keep it rolling.
Ready to fire, sir.
Welcome to the New World Order.
Okay, so they go right ahead and they drop the NWO on us. dropping New World Order. Obviously, Rufus has some really extreme ambitions, but I gotta say, he looks great. The coat looks great. Voice actor sounds like he's settling into the role nicely. I look forward to seeing a lot from Rufus because, for those of you who are caught up with the Advent children of it all, we know how important Rufus becomes. We know what becomes of Rufus as time goes on. So I hope he gets the focus he deserves. He's a really good character, especially when you consider the themes of FF7. So I hope Rufus gets a lot of love from the Rebirth, the FF7 trilogy. All right, keep it rolling.
Fire!
Showing off that military. So boom, we get this scene. This scene that is straight out of OG is right here before us. And I believe I read some things that, based on some of the decisions we make on the way to Junon and on the way to this parade, there are some things we do that will influence the way this parade is organized. They kept that pretty vague, but perhaps we'll talk about that a little later.
Just close your eyes and listen. Tell me you can't hear that. Her rallying cry.
So boom, this is something we're going to come back to a lot on this channel, be it in this episode, be it in a theory that I have that I'm saving for the end of the episode. I've got a theory about this. If you guys heard Barrett, he's kind of rallying everybody, like, do you hear the planet's rallying cry? And I think there's something more to that because it's referenced a few times. I'm going to dial it back so we can listen to it again. Also take note of how beautiful these landscapes look. Like, they look remarkable. It seems like it's going to be a joy of a world to explore. But again, pay close attention to Barrett's dialogue. I think there's something more to this whole planet and the rallying cry. So just take note of it as we move forward. And yeah, let's keep it going.
Just close your eyes and listen. Tell me you can't hear that. Her rallying cry.
Planet runs out of energy. It and everything on it dies.
Also, take note, as they show off a lot of the combat clips here, they're really showing off the way characters can pair up and work together. Like, take note of that. We just saw Cloud and Barrett on the last clip. Here's Aerith and Red on this clip. Obviously we know what a lot of the synergy attacks that we got to see in the intermission DLC, it looks like they really lean into these synergy and these fighting side-by-side duo matchups. Because you see a lot of it in this trailer. Again, we just saw Cloud and Barrett. Now we see Aerith and Red. Take note of that as we keep this going.
We can overcome our fate.
Am I the same as these monsters? Am I even human?
Crazy, baby.
Okay, we're looking for Sephiroth. Think you can find him?
Oh. All right, so we got our boy Kate Sith back, or Katsu. We'll see what they call him. Could be Kate Sith, could be Katsu. We'll wait for it. But he looks great. I mean, we got to see him briefly in Remake. I'm glad that wasn't just an Easter egg. I know Kate Sith, in my opinion, and the opinion of many others, is the weakest one in the party. Just my opinion, I think he's the weakest character in the party for a variety of reasons. However, that doesn't mean he's not important. He is vitally important to the story, and I'm glad that they're giving him the shine he deserves, because I think this is a character that they could really build on. When I think about characters from OG that really could use some improving, Kate Sith is one of the first ones that come to mind. So when we think about ways that the FF7 trilogy can improve on OG in the original compilation, Kate Sith is front and center, in my opinion. All right, let's keep this going.
Sephiroth, you see. So you heeded the call too, did you?
So did you hear that? So you heeded the call too, did you? I'm going to dial it back so everybody could hear it, because again, this is going to paint into a theory of mine later in the episode. But take note of this.
So you heeded the call too, did you?
What are you talking about?
As you can see, your brothers down there are having a little get-together.
So to me, obviously, that sounds like Hojo. I'd place a lot of bets on that's Hojo's voice line. And when he says your brothers down there, I think he's referring to those Sephiroth clones who are always hooded going, reunion, reunion. Because we saw in a previous trailer that Cloud, there's this vision where Cloud is in one of those hoods, kind of acting just like the clones. So it seems to me like there's sort of this rallying cry, a cry of the planet, maybe a cry of Genova as well, that's sort of summoning all the pieces onto the board, right? I talk about it a lot, where you got to look at the story of FF7 like this massive chess game where on one side of the chess game, you've got the planet and you've got Aerith, and on the other side of the chess game, you've got Jenova and you've got Sephiroth. The planet sort of representing this benevolent mother figure, while Jenova represents this devouring mother figure. And again, I'm speaking very broadly on the two of them. And there seems to be sort of this behind the curtain chess match going on where characters like Cloud and Aerith and Sephiroth are just pieces on the chessboard for them. Because again, the planet, Jenova basically wants to infect the planet and sort of wove itself into the DNA of not only the planet, but the life stream itself. And as we know, the life stream, at the core of the life stream's DNA is memory. And that's what Jenova seeks to corrupt. Anyway, my rant aside, check out Cloud on the Segway. Let's keep it rolling.
They're our best chance of finding Sephiroth.
Yeah. I ask because I suspect they're soldiers suffering from cellular degradation.
Do not be deceived. You know the truth. Trust in me.
Sephiroth!
So again, this builds more on, obviously there's something going on where Sephiroth wants Cloud fighting behind his side. We're going to get into that a little bit, down the line. I want to talk about that a bit. But very obvious, we saw this at the edge of creation at the end of Remake. They're keeping up with this idea that Sephiroth, whatever he has planned, he needs Cloud by his side, and he needs Cloud's consent. Let's keep it going. And cool stuff here. See, here we go. The duos. These duos, these synergy attacks are going to be huge. Another example right here.
On me.
Also, did you hear? I believe that was Sephiroth who said "on me," when that's a voice line Cloud says in Remake during battle. So here we have Sephiroth saying "on me" in the same way Cloud says it in Remake.
On me.
Yep. I will say this is my one critique of the trailer. The character models look a little rough right here. I get that it's in combat, so while these characters are in combat, there's a little bit of a lower resolution, but it looks a little rough to me, man. It looks just a little rough to me. I hope they patch this up. I'm sure they will, but I don't want to just point out what I love. I want to point out some critiques as well. This just happens to be one of them. Again, this stuff looks incredible. The summons are going to be next level. And here we go, baby. It looks to me, and I was very, 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 very happy to see that Square Enix went all in on the Golden Saucer. Seriously, one of the best parts of OG FF7 are all the mini-games. And it's not... The mini-games aren't a highlight, right? It's not a highlight in the way the combat is, the story, the soundtrack. But the mini-games at the Gold Saucer, as far as OG was concerned, always provided a way to break up the gameplay, engage in a different way. I hear that, just like in OG, where there was Cloud could basically take any of the party members on a date, it seems like that's the same thing going on here. You can kind of choose to spend a day at the Golden Saucer with any party member. Yeah, it just looks to me like they went all in. I'm going to let it keep rolling.
Look!
Andrea Rodea is back. Also, really interesting. I don't know what the deal with this is, but Yuffie seems to be the only one in a sort of yukata-style dress. We can see both Tifa in the back left over here. We can see Aerith in the back right over here. They're in their standard outfits. I wonder if this whole yukata thing is exclusive to Yuffie, or if whoever you choose to take on the Golden Saucer date, that's who wears the yukata. I don't know. It's just something I noticed. Let's keep it rolling now. So boom, Chocobo Racing, Rock'em Sock'em, and the motorcycle, baby. Like, what more could you ask for? Okay, this trips me out. So, look, one of the crazy things about FF7 is that the compilation is huge. It's not just the games. It's not just the movies. There's also these books. Now, Yuffie is from a book, The Kids Are All Right. That was the title of it anyway. It seems to me like they're getting her even more involved, right? You're telling me when Zack brings Cloud back to Midgar, the first person he drops him off to is Kyrie? Well, what kind of implications is that going to have? Cornflake says, I haven't played FF7 97 past Midgar. Were there segues? No, there were no segues. Absolutely not. I spent a long time getting the best dart score, but I wasn't good at the gym games. Yeah, the minigames in Remake were pretty good, but they don't measure up to what they're doing here. Especially, now this is wishful thinking, at the risk of getting everybody's expectations too high. Can you imagine if there was online functionality with the gold saucer where we could all race each other's chocobos? Wouldn't that be amazing? Corey Sarakis is here. What's going on, man? But wouldn't that be amazing if there was online functionality with the gold saucer? I don't want to get anyone's hopes up too far, but it would be really cool. Let's keep this rolling. We got Zack dropping Cloud off to Kyrie. Maybe while he sees there's a situation he has to get involved in, or maybe he drops him off to Kyrie so he can go to the church. Keep it going.
Me. Could you look after my friend? Just for a bit.
Back to this. So, here we go. Who could this hooded man be? I know everybody's got their opinions on this. Here, there's a way I can get a really good shot. All right, that's probably the best shot we're going to get. I've heard some people say maybe this is an older Genesis. I'm not buying it. I've heard some people say that it could be a brand new character. Very well could be. In my opinion, I think this is Glenn from First Soldier. I really think this could be Glenn from First Soldier. Okay, I want to be fair. I've heard some people say that maybe this could be Sid. I don't think it's Sid. Could be, but I don't think so. I think this is Glenn from the First Soldier. Because they're really building him up. For those of you who are playing Ever Crisis, they're really building Glenn up. And he actually has turned out to be at least a relatively interesting character. If everything I see them building up here in Ever Crisis First Soldier, with him kind of being one of Sephiroth's first adversaries, I like the Verdot theory. Ooh, yeah, I could see it being Verdot. Shout out to those of you who have played before Crisis. Verdot is a good guess as well. I think Verdot is a pretty good guess. I think Glenn is probably the safest bet. But to me, I really think that this is more than likely Glenn. But Verdot is probably the second best guess I've heard so far. Again, I don't want to completely rule out Sid or rule out like an older Genesis, but I just don't see it. I think it suits Glenn. I think it makes sense with the way they're building up Glenn. But I think you can't disregard the fact that it could be Verdot because we're seeing them link up so much of the compilation to the FF7 trilogy, but we're yet to see any before Crisis bleed its way into the story. And I think Verdot kind of lingering in the shadows could be a great way to get before Crisis involved. So I'm glad you brought that up. Even though I'm still on Team Glenn, I think Verdot is a good bet as well.
A weapon?
Okay, this is nuts. We gotta dial it back. So we got Tifa in the live stream. That's what it looks like. Maybe it's some other green gooish sea. I don't know. But as far as FF7 goes, this sort of like ethereal gooey green sea usually is an implication of the live stream. So, we'll get to developer interviews after the trailer. But to spoil one part of them, they talk about the fact this game is going to end at the Forgotten Capital. And when you consider that they're saying the game is going to end there, Tifa doesn't end up in the live stream until after that happens. So clearly things may be happening in a different order, or maybe there's something else that sort of catalyzes Tifa to go into the live stream a little bit earlier. But what's really peculiar is that there's a weapon here, one of the planet's weapons, and that usually doesn't happen until the final act of FF7. But what it appears happened here is that by the party severing themselves off from Fate in Remake, perhaps that ignited the planet to summon the weapons early, to summon the weapons now. Maybe by Sephiroth absorbing the Whispers at the end of Remake, it's enough of a threat for the planet to wake up the weapons. Because that's what the weapons serve as a purpose, right? The purpose they serve is the planet wakes them up when it feels impending doom, feels an impending threat. So maybe the party severing themselves from fate ignited this early. Because everything you're seeing here, Tifa, the weapons, it's all happening a little bit earlier than it should. I'm pretty sure it said the game ends at the temple, but the path we get there isn't going to be the same. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing. You know, they've said outright that's where the game's going to end, but there's stuff like this where it's like, okay, but things are happening in a different order. Let's keep it going.
A weapon?
Tutelary creatures, said only to appear when the planet is in grave danger.
Who dares?
So boom, you gotta love it. Vincent with an over-the-top entrance, knocks Cloud on his ass, has the attention of the whole room. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. We'll talk a little bit more about Vincent. You know, they've released some statements on him, what to expect. But it's good to see he's here, man, and he looks good. I believe Matt Mercer is voicing him. He'll do a great job. But, yeah, let's go.
Disturb my slumber.
It's upon us. The reunion.
Pay close attention to what Sephiroth says here. Pay very close attention to what he says.
When worlds merge.
Okay, when worlds merge. So to me, that means whatever's going on with Cloud, whatever's going on with Zack, there are these two worlds. Sephiroth intends to merge these worlds for reasons that are not exactly crystal clear. But it appears as though we have the world that the party is, let's call it the conventional world, and then we have the unconventional world where Zack appears to be. Sephiroth has some kind of agenda that involves combining these two worlds. Now, we could talk about all day what that could be, but what I find so peculiar, guys, is this shot right here at the end of the trailer. It's just the end of Remake. Like, if you notice the party, they don't have Vincent, they don't have Yuffie, they don't have Kate Sith Kachu, they don't have Sid. It's just the OG party from the end of Remake. Again, I'm going to pull it back just a little bit, but it seems very weird to me that when Sephiroth is talking about this merging of worlds, it's showing us what appears to be a different angle from the end of Remake.
Merge. I'm waiting, Cloud.
And there we have it. There we have it. FF7 Rebirth, everybody. There was a lot to break down there. I think we just spent close to 20 minutes breaking all that down. Not a breath was wasted. Not a minute was wasted. There was a lot there, guys. Like, let me tell you something. You gotta hand it to Square Enix. I felt like when it came to games like FF7 Remake, when it came to games like Kingdom Hearts 3, I think they showed too much. I think they showed too much in their trailers in that era about 5 years ago. When you look at trailers like Rebirth, when you look at trailers like FF16, when you look at trailers even like Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind, they know what to do now. They know how to show you a lot, but also a little at the same time, right? They showed us so much of this trailer that we just spent 15, 20 minutes breaking it down. But they didn't show us enough that they showed us that they showed us their hand, that they showed us big climaxes and what to expect. So I really want to hand it to them. They did a great job with this trailer. I really think they knocked it out of the park. But yeah, that's just my candid breakdown of what we see. Let's get into the chat a little bit. Let's take a little break. Let's roll this trailer in the background. And let's get into the chat. Let's see what you sickos and normies have to say for yourselves. Let's see what you sickos and normies have to say. Okay. C-Man over on YouTube says, I love that this time around, Vincent and Yuffie seem to be integral to the plot as opposed to optional in OG. So they couldn't really have a big impact. Yeah, you know, that's something, you know, shout out to my man Big C, who I do the Midgar Minute with. That's something we talk about quite a lot, is that the OG game, even though it's a classic, it's a top 5 Final Fantasy for me, top 10, like, Square Enix game. But let me tell you this much. They made a lot of compromises. You look at the interviews, you look at the execution, they made a lot of compromises. Yuffie was never supposed to be optional. Vincent was never supposed to be optional. Wu Tai was supposed to be a much bigger deal. To me, I think the reason why Square Enix always envisioned they were going to remake this game is because they have a big vision for it. It's because they even though the OG is such a classic and they did everything right, there's still so much they wanted to explore. And I really feel like you could feel that in the love and care that the Rebirth trilogy is getting. So, gotta hand it to them. I can't wait to see what they do this time around. But I'm glad you brought that up, C-Man. VBit Games over on Twitch. By the way, shout out and love to Karai Kara and Horizon over on Twitch giving us those follows. We do appreciate that here. VBit Games says there's supposed to be some recap at the beginning, I heard. It could be a more cinematic version of that remake scene. Great point, VBit. Great point. Great point. So the reason why we're seeing that could be pulled from the recap that they're going to give us at the beginning. And we'll get into the developer interview soon because they say that Rebirth can be your first FF7 game ever. That's how they're approaching this. They want people to come to FF7 Rebirth and feel like they're caught up, even if it's their first FF7 game. Not going to be easy for them to pull off. Not going to be easy for them to pull off. But I respect it. I respect it. My man Umbra, a mod of the Lodge, says the reunion has now changed to a plot involving merging worlds. Yeah, because maybe these worlds will merge in a way that the people who are missing in one world can reunite with the people who are in another. So for instance, maybe Zack, Biggs, Jesse, maybe all of them are in one world while Cloud and the party are in another. And the tempting thing about Sephiroth's merger is it can reunite people who have been separated by a cruel fate. So maybe by that merging of worlds, the temptation will be that it reunites Zack and Aerith. The temptation will be that it reunites Barrett with Avalanche. The temptation will be that Cloud will get his best friend back and maybe he won't have to give up Aerith. So I can see how the temptations of that merger can come to light, but it'll be interesting to learn more. Cornflake says this is some Stone Ocean level fate shenanigans. Yeah, listen, a lot of Japanese storytellers are really playing with the idea of fate as a tangible thing. I'd like to know where that came from. Who pioneered that, at least in the East? It would be cool. Corey Sarakis, I read that one. Yosuke says the Verdot theory is from Final Fantasy Peasant's channel. Yeah, Pez is great, man. Pez is great. He's one of the channels I followed for a while. I haven't gotten into his coverage yet. I'm curious what he has to say about things. But he brings up a good point. I'm glad you gave him credit for that. Okay. Gonna say ahead of time, Matt Mercer voicing Vincent. Yep, we brought that up. Okay, that catches up with you guys. Gets you caught up to when we were talking about good old Glenn. Okay. Silver Dash says a reunion between characters that didn't see the end of OG with the main cast is almost inevitable. I feel. But the question is, how long will that reunion last? I think the tough part is in order for them to embody the heroes, in order for them to be heroes, they're going to need to give up that temptation, right? They're going to need to sacrifice that. Because I'm with you, it's inevitable. But I think the heroics will come in them sacrificing that for the greater good. Okay. Pez has been cooking with his Kabbalah takes on FF. Pez is always cooking, dude. He is. There are a lot of guys who make Final Fantasy content out there. I'm a big fan of Pez. I think he makes very unique content. And I like the way he approaches things. Okay. Miyu says, I know Final Fantasy characters weren't super present in Kingdom Hearts 3, but I can't help but wonder if, with Final Fantasy VII being so fresh in everyone's minds right now, then maybe they will be involved in KH4 somehow. Not in any sort of canonical sense, but I do think in Kingdom Hearts 4 or 5, you can see a return to a Sephiroth boss battle or the Cloud Sephiroth fight. Yo! Everybody, give it up. Give it up for Larkscene Simp coming in with a subscription on Twitch. They've been subscribed for 11 months. Only almost 1 year. That's brilliant, Larkscene Simp. Welcome to the chat. Welcome to the stream. It's good to have you here. I can't wait for the next dance sequence at the Golden Saucer. The entire Golden Saucer is going to be like balls to the walls, man. Forget about it. Yosuke says, FF Remake Project feels like a culmination of all Square has learned. Honestly, I hope this is the direction Final Fantasy 17 as much as I'm enjoying 16. Yeah, you know, a little sidebar about that. After this crew is done with the FF7 trilogy and, you know, whether or not they move on to do an FF10 project, I really would like to see Nomura, Nojima, Kitase do a mainline Final Fantasy again, whether it's got to be FF17, whether it's got to be FF18, before they're all retired, I would really like to see Nomura, Nojima, Kitase all come together to make one mainline Final Fantasy before they hang it all up. Okay. Sven says, do you think they're going away from materia? None of the weapons seem to be equipped with them in the trailer. Interesting. I don't think they're going away with it, but I think for what they want to do, they might make it just either super easily accessible or not as important. But yeah. Okay, guys. Okay. I'll read this last one from Cornflakes, then we're going to move on to the developer interviews. I think Fate's storylines in Japanese media might be a rebellious sentiment against the overwhelming comfortist ideals, but also Fate has been rooted since Buddhism and Shintoism were more prevalent. Yeah, I kind of, Cornflakes, I love that you're here. I love that you're here because that, that really actually makes sense to me. That a lot of Eastern religions sort of have this sort of laissez-faire relationship with fate, or they sort of embody amor fati, which means love your fate, kind of having this idea that we ourselves don't have any sort of control over these sorts of things. And maybe, like you're saying, Cornflakes, the reason why we're seeing stories from, Final Fantasy to Kingdom Hearts to The World Ends With You all sort of challenge fate, take control of fate. It might be a rebellion against those ideas. Cornflakes, you're the best. Thanks for saying that. Mrs. KH Guides is here. Everybody give it up for Mrs. KH Guides, an integral part to the Kingdom Hearts Reconnect event. Mrs. Guides, how are you? I hope you're settling in nicely. And with that said, let's move on to some of these developer interviews, guys. This is some crazy stuff. My bad, guys. My bad. There was no sound. We're going to bring the sound back. Happens what? Maybe once an episode? We're going to bring it back. Give me 1 second. Okay, there we go. Little misstep on my part. Anyway, I feel like over here does the best job of organizing it. Truly a skill issue. Yeah, it's a skill issue, guys. Don't worry about it. It's just a skill issue. Just a podcasting skill issue. 195 episodes. We're still figuring some stuff out. That's just the way of things. Takes 10,000 hours to be a master. So maybe by the time we get to episode 3, 4, 5,000, I will finally be a podcasting master. But anyway, as I was saying, we're already about 40 minutes in. I think we're going to need 2 episodes to go over all of this. There's just so much. And we spent 30 minutes on the 3-minute trailer alone, and we still have 10-minute gameplay to go over. It's going to be 2 episodes, guys. So just be prepared for that. Let's keep this going. I mean, look, I love what I do here, so I'm not complaining in the slightest. Let's move on to these developer messages, though. Starting with this one coming from Yoshinori Kitase, who I've got to say, Kitase to me seems to be the most sort of level-headed one out of all of them. He just seems to be the most analytical, where Nomura and Nojima are very, hyper creative, very imaginative. Kitase he just seems very like he can walk the straight and narrow. Don't get me wrong, he's one of the guys who wants to mix up the remake bag as much as possible. But when I look at the way he speaks and the way he sort of handles questions, he really just seems to have the most level head among the crew. And they all seem level-headed to a degree. But I just say with Kitase, it seems to really shine through. Okay. Larksin Sim says, random question, has anyone pre-ordered from the Square Enix store before? I have, and it's usually pretty smooth. But let's read this out. So, Kitase says, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has been set for release on February 29th, 2024. The second installment of the Final Fantasy VII Remake project will feature elements from the previous game, as well as greatly enhanced features such as the vast world map to explore and synergy. I think that's a bit of a typo. To explore and synergize abilities with party members. The story will unfold more dramatically than ever before. With a rapid pace of major twists and turns, we know fans are dying to see one scene in particular. We all know what scene that is. If you're trying to avoid spoilers for the original FF7, you've come to the wrong place. So this is your warning. Get out now if you don't want any spoilers. But I'm going to talk about them when we're talking about Kitase, talking about this one scene in particular. So that's your warning. KH Guides is here. Can we get a shout out for my man KH Guides? Near shipping time? Oh, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of the shippers. I'm not afraid of the shippers. Okay? It's Cloud and Tifa. It's Zack and Aerith. Shoot me if you want. Anyway. Oh, God. YouTube. I meant that sarcastically. Anyway. Moving on. I'm doing well, guides. I hope you're doing well. Okay. Getting back to the message. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth can be enjoyed on its own as a standalone adventure, with the party leaving Midgard to explore a wide world beyond. But for those wishing to deepen their understanding of the story, a recap of the previous game will also be provided. We hope that both fans and those that have never played Final Fantasy before will enjoy this game. So, okay, let's talk about the scene. With a rapid pace of major twists and turns, we know fans are dying to see one scene in particular. Okay, guys, they're clearly talking about the scene of Sephiroth killing Aerith. That's what they talk about when they bring up the Forgotten Capital. That's what they talk about with this one scene in particular. Now, look, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to make a prediction. So, I, for one, am somebody who thinks Aerith needs to die on this journey. However, she will not die at this scene. She will not die at this scene. Because I'm going to say, you cannot sever these characters off from fate and then give one of them the same death scene from the original. I'm sorry. It just doesn't, to me, that doesn't work. So I do think Aerith is going to die by the end. I think it will be in a sacrificial sort of way where she chooses to sacrifice herself. She could sacrifice herself on her own terms as opposed to getting blindsided by Sephiroth from behind. So I do think she meets that fate eventually, but it's more with her consent, more as a deliberate sacrifice. But I will tell you this. This scene will end with Zack dying. I think Zack dies at the end of this game. I think Aerith is in danger of dying, and Zack will save her. But Zack will save her by sacrificing himself. Just a prediction, because they have to mix things up. They're alluding to this one scene as the big climax. And you're not going to do it by keeping the scene the same as the OG. But you have to do it by still instilling a sense of loss in the player, the viewer, the cast of characters. And I think Zack's death in front of the eyes of both Cloud and Aerith can carry a similar weight to Aerith's death in the original. However, I do still think Aerith will die in the final game in a more sacrificial way. Lands of Masters is here. Subscribed for 35 months like an absolute sicko. Dude, how are you? And let me see how the chat is reacting to my little prediction there. Yeah, I agree. She either lives or dies closer to the end, especially since they know we are expecting it. Yeah, they know we're expecting it. You know what I mean? They have to play into that. Star Latte says that's the biggest loss possible. Yeah, making everybody witness Zack's death in another way that's hard to watch, man, that could be crazy. I would cry, says Miyu. That is the point. That is the point. That is the point. We need an Empire Strikes Back moment. You do. We need to leave this game feeling like the party is screwed. You know, you want to leave this game thinking, how are they going to get out of this mess? Like, that's how this game should leave you. I think this game, because I saw a remake sort of worked in a similar fashion, I'm going to predict Rebirth. You're going to hear a lot of this. I think for a lot of people, they're going to come away thinking this is the best Final Fantasy of all time. I really do. I look at this wondering if I'm going to come away feeling similar. And I think there's a chance I come away feeling like this was one of, if not the best Final Fantasy game ever. However, that ending is going to be very risky. That ending is going to be, no matter what they do, let's just put it this way, no matter what Square Enix does, the ending of this game is going to piss somebody off. Whether it pisses off 5% of the crowd, 1%, 10%, 50% remains to be seen. Excuse me. But no matter what they do, some slice of the pie is going to be pissed off. So you're going to see a take where people are going to go, this was the best Final Fantasy game ever until that ending. Because I felt like Remake had a similar reaction from a lot of people. So I just think people should be on the lookout for that. That even if they give you a ending that you love, there's going to be someone on the internet that hates it. So just be ready for it. Okay. Well, it's almost midnight for me, so I'm going to get off. Enjoy the rest of the stream. Larkscene Simp, thanks for hanging out, dude. We always love having you in here. All right, let's move on to the next developer message. This one coming to us from, let's make this a little bigger. Let's make these a little bigger. This one coming from Hamaguchi, who is the lead director. A lot of confusion around that. Let them fight, says Umbra. Yes, let them fight. A lot of confusion about this. Nomura is the creative director of the trilogy. Hamaguchi is more of the on-hand director. I've seen a lot of discourse about that online. It's been annoying, to say the least. You know, no one is trying to downplay Nomura's role here, but he's not the director in the way he directed Remake or in the way he directs the Kingdom Hearts games. He's now the creative director, which means he still has a lot of pull. He still has a lot of influence. He's still there for the big decisions, but because he's divided among so many different projects, I think this is a better way for him to be utilized. And I think it helps the series move forward at a bit of a more quick pace. But anyway, let's get into Hamaguchi's lines here. He says, "We are finally able to announce the release date to all of you. We have been working tirelessly on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth since the release of Final Fantasy VII Remake, and we can't wait for you to experience our labor of love. In this title, Cloud and his friends who have fled Midgar will be setting out on an adventure across an expansive world of untold adventure in pursuit of Sephiroth. While the main storyline is bigger and more ambitious than the previous game's narrative, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth also embraces the concept of free exploration, with compelling stories, fun minigames, powerful monsters, and so much more to find throughout the world map. We hope you explore this world in great detail as nearly 100 hours of adventure awaits. We hope you will take this new Final Fantasy game experience in your own hands to enjoy." So again, guys, you almost see a stark contrast between Katase's message and Hamaguchi. Hamaguchi, if you look at the way he's talking here, he's trying to sell you the game from like a gameplay perspective, which gives you some insight about the kind of director he is and the kind of creative director Nomura is, where he's like, look, free exploration, 100 hours of gameplay, mini games, stories. Like, he's trying to sell you the game on the gaming experience itself, while it looks like the guys like Kitase, Nomura, Nojima, they're kind of trying to tease the storytelling part of it. But Hamaguchi here is just straight up like, this game is awesome. Why is free exploration in quotation marks? That seems weird. I think it's because a big theme with this game is freedom. Right, C-Man? If you look at Remake, what was one of the big themes of Remake? Being glued to fate, being stuck to walk the path of fate. And you see them thematically. This is foreshadowed when they're on the train, right? And Cloud says, like, it's like this train. There's only one way it could go. That's why the whole train motif is so big in Remake. That's why you see Cloud slicing through train cars in Advent Children, in the Remake final chapter, because it's all about destroying this idea of being stuck on a rail. Even the way Remake operated as a game, you had to follow this linear path. Midgar, while it was big and expansive, the roads in it were very linear. It was all linear. The DNA of Remake itself was linear. But now that the party has severed themselves from fate, the DNA has become freedom. As Aerith says at the end of Remake, boundless, terrifying freedom. That's what this game has become. So to me, that's why you see the free exploration in quotes, because it's like the DNA of this game has changed. Okay, let's move on to the next developer interview from our man Nomura himself. And this is the last one. And then we're going to move on to some of the calm gameplay. We got some time. I'm going to intermittently engage with the chat. I know after an hour, I usually open things up to the chat, but there's so much to cover here that we're just going to keep steamrolling. I'll do my best to read as many of your guys' messages as I can. But again, before we continue, how about a swig for the hardworking men and women over at Square Enix making this all possible? Okay, and with that said, let's get into Nomura's message. Nomura says, this is the second title of a trilogy and covers between the start of the journey outside Midgar to the midpoint of the original Final Fantasy VII. If Final Fantasy VII Remake was an introduction to the world and a preparation for this journey, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth serves as an illustration of the incidents that started the journey. An exploration of the people tied to it, and the journey itself heading towards its climax. Many elements were carefully selected for this title, and because this is a series, we have the unique opportunity to review and incorporate feedback from the previous title. Such as by increasing the number of characters, I am sure that the bar for the next work will be raised even higher now that we've included so many spectacular elements in this work. But even so, the entire team continues to work diligently and without compromise on its development. There is also the looming question of what fate awaits. Whether you have experienced the original title or will embark on this adventure with fresh eyes, we hope you will face the ending of this work on your own terms. Again, it's all coming back to this ending. They know what happens at this ending is probably a risky decision. They know it's probably going to be crazy. It's going to make some of us cry in a good way. Will upset some of us in a bad way. Either way, you know, I think when you make something authentic, people's reactions differ. I think if you make something flat, if you make something sort of flat and generic, people tend to react to it the same way, which is what makes it, in some people's eyes, boring. But I think to truly do what they're doing here is not only a risk, but I think it's bold. I do. And again, we can see Nomura here. Can't help himself. Has to tease the ending. Talks about the climax. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think that ending is going to be wild. I don't think there's any way to predict what's coming. I just don't. All right. With that said, you know what? Maybe not calm. Let's do Nibel. Let's do the Nibelheim gameplay. That's what I'm interested in doing here. Okay, guys, let's talk a little bit about this. So, it would appear quite obvious. Okay, I just want to make sure my mic was on after I'd switched. We're good. It seems quite obvious to me that we are going to play through the Nibelheim flashback. Why am I even saying that? It's clear. It's right here in plain sight. We're going to play through the Nibelheim flashback. Obviously, for those of you who are in the know, who played OG, who played Crisis Core, we know that this isn't really Cloud. This is actually Zack, but we're going to be playing it as if it's Cloud. What an amazing way to play out the unreliable narrator trope. But I will say, there's a lot to be excited about here in these gameplay segments. There's a lot to be excited about. There's some Sephiroth gameplay we're going to get into. I think the cutscenes are building the story out more. I actually want to watch them. I pulled up about 5 minutes of gameplay through the whole Nibelheim thing. I've got the boss fight lined up as well we can talk about. But let's get to watching some of this. Some really exciting stuff.
A Mako spring.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, but if we keep using Mako to power our homes, springs like this will disappear, right?
What are you talking about? Who told you that?
And again, I've got to say, I love that it might be Cloud's character model, but it's so clearly Zack's facial expressions, Zack's body language. This was the kind of stuff they couldn't do in the original, that they're able to do so well here. And also, it's just kind of cool to see Zack really was naive to all of this. Like, you have Tifa here saying, like, hey, if we keep using Mako to power our homes, won't these beautiful springs disappear? And you see Cloud standing in for Zack here is completely naive to that, which is necessary for his character to make sense, but let's keep it going.
My dad.
Also, love that they're getting Tifa's dad involved. Tifa's dad is an important character, not very fleshed out in the OG and the compilation, but Tifa's dad and her martial arts master are very important to her motivations and why she feels the way she does. And it's cool to see, right? Because now that makes sense why she may have buddied up with Avalanche. Because if her dad was telling her that this was how it all works, if her dad was caught up on what using Mako energy was doing to the planet, then her serving alongside Avalanche is in a way of her honoring her dad's memory. Again, it's such little things like that that build so much, and they do it simply by revisiting this Nibelheim scene. Again, I'm going to let it keep rolling. I could blab forever. C-Man says, yeah, it may look like Cloud, but those are definitely Zack's mannerisms. So clever, dude. I love it.
What are you talking about? Who told you that?
My dad. And the mayor, if you must know.
Except the planet's huge. Mako will never run out.
Okay, then we get a little look, check it out, at the pausing interface, which I think is so cool. So as we can see, the menu over on the left side looks pretty similar to what we had in Remake. Definitely different, but you see here, you're going to select your party member. You'll get to see their stats. But then we move over here, and I love this, that you're going to see the party members kind of align, basically, and can kind of edit them from there. It just looks very clean. It's a very clean interface. Like, I really got to hand it to him. Again, you see, very clean, very easy to edit, doesn't take up a whole lot of space, and I like how alive it feels. You know what I mean? By having those character models kind of just standing there, it makes the pause menu feel alive. It doesn't feel like the game came to a halt. It feels like the game is still breathing. And then, of course, we have these new climbing mechanics, so that's going to add a lot to sort of the map exploration. Let me know how the volume is, guys. Let me know if the game volume is too loud for me to be talking over. Because I'm not going to be pausing this one as much as I paused the trailer.
Get him.
But look at this.
Well, that's that.
And again, this whole climbing mechanic I think is going to make... Because let's be honest, Square Enix's level design has been stuck in the PS3 era. Save for maybe Kingdom Hearts 3. There were a number of worlds and levels in Kingdom Hearts 3 that were really, really good design. In my opinion, I think Olympus and the Pirates World are good examples of that. But as far as like Remake goes, Remake's level design was like PlayStation 3 level, almost PlayStation 2. And that's fine. It was the weak point of Remake. But I think by adding this climbing mechanic, it allows them to really enhance their level design. Again, what made... here's a good example. The way Kingdom Hearts 3 included vertical level designs, in a way Kingdom Hearts 2 and 1 really couldn't. Like, there was some verticalness, but it couldn't go a lot. But by adding air step, you were able to really build a vertical landscape that the player could explore. It seems like Rebirth is doing a similar thing by letting you climb. And who knows how far they could take that? You know what I mean? Volume is well mixed. Thank you. Your voice sounds good in comparison to game volume. That's what I like to hear. But you could see that some of the paths are still relatively linear, especially probably during this tutorial phase. I'm sure this tutorial phase is going to feel a lot like Remake. Very linear, but with the sort of vertical level design that allows you to climb to sort of break it up. Remake felt very PS2 to me. Yeah, it did. Its level design was like very PS2, PS3 level. It was a weak point. And it looks to me already, just from looking at this prologue segment, which that's what I'm predicting this is a prologue segment. I don't know if they've announced that, but I think this is going to be a tutorial, this sort of Nibelheim incident segment. And it looks like even in the tutorial, they've elevated the level design. Also, I just thought of this. You know, Tifa mentioned that it was her dad and the mayor who told her about Mako draining the planet's life force. Maybe maybe the fact that the mayor was privy to that could have given Shinra the motivation to have Nibelheim be destroyed, right? Because the mayor and Tifa's dad were becoming privy to that, so maybe that created a motivation to want Nibelheim taken care of, if you catch my drift. So this is interesting to me, right? Because we're going to watch Cloud fight an aerial enemy, right? Which was another weak point in Remake. Here, we're switching to Sephiroth, which, by the way, we got Sephiroth gameplay, baby. You got to be happy to see that. And I'm wondering if this is the clip, but we do see in a lot of clips that the vertical combat has also been vastly improved, because that was another weak point in Remake. Again, I loved Remake, one of my favorite Final Fantasy games, but its two biggest weak points were the vertical gameplay and the level design. And we could see already in the tutorial that Square Enix has begun to address both of those things. Dude, the way Sephiroth can just warp around the battlefield? Come on. And again, it looks like a lot of the enemies who are in the air are now like flying at a low enough level that characters like Sephiroth and Cloud can hit them with their standard attacks.
This won't be the last.
Okay, then we got this. Looks like there's going to be some more puzzles also in Rebirth. That it won't just be, you know, beat up the guy in front of you to move everything forward. It looks like there will be some puzzle design, some puzzle solving to do, which I like. I don't want them to go too overboard with it, because Final Fantasy VII is not Legend of Zelda, nor should it try to act like it. But I think incorporating some of these puzzles might be a good way to break up gameplay. You saw them do it in Remake, but I felt like the puzzles in Remake were pretty weak. You know, the hands and all of that, and this looks a little bit better. This looks a little bit better.
It thinks we're after materia.
Someone should tell it.
Now, this is the Materia Guardian. Is that all that's left on this clip? Because I have... Let me see. Okay, yeah, let me switch clips. Let me switch clips, because this will get us a better view. Okay, let's move this over. Here's the Materia Guardian boss fight. Let me make sure I got the volume on. I do. Lots of cool stuff here as well. Cool to see. Again, more Sephiroth gameplay and the way some of these boss battles are going to work. And we get a cool little cutscene too.
Wait.
Huh?
What?
What clip was that from, Landy, if I may ask? I want to watch it. Which part are you asking about? I'll be happy to drop like a YouTube link or something in the chat. Just let me know exactly what you meant.
Get back.
By the way, the graphics look so good. Like, the character models look even better than Remake. And that's not easy.
You said you wanted to be a hero.
And again, it's kind of cool to see Sephiroth, like, being nice to someone. Like, he clearly likes Zack. You know what I mean? So, it's just an interesting part. They're doing a lot to show us different sides of Sephiroth, or at least who he was before he went completely mad. Before you switch to this, the tutorial one? Okay, yeah. I'll hunt that down for you. Let me hunt that down for you. I'll drop that in the chat for all of you right now. Okay. And I'll drop that on both platforms. There you go, Sven. That's what you're looking for. I gotcha. I gotcha. Okay, Shadowflare says, puzzles are good. Some platforming exploration is also good, but Rebirth shouldn't go as hard into the puzzles as Golden Sun or Zelda. Exactly. Put in some puzzles to break up the gameplay, build some lore, you know, make things that are a little fun, but make sure you rely heavily on the combat. That's what we're here to do. Okay, let's keep this going. Sorry, that materia piqued my interest. Thank you. Hey, that's what I'm here for, man.
Wish I hadn't.
It thinks we're after materia.
Someone should tell it we're not.
So here we go. We can see the boss battles are relatively the same. If we look over at the menu over on the left, we see, look, with L2, R2, you can issue commands to allies. Switching characters is not only just horizontal on the D-pad, looks like it works vertically as well. Obviously, we got circle as evade. You know, you don't need an evade materia or a dodge materia or anything like that. R1 is not only guard, but synergy skills as well. It'll be interesting to see that. And then, of course, you know, command shortcuts and lock on. Oops, wrong clip. There we go. So we see this is probably our prologue tutorial boss battle. See, here we go. Did you see this? We got a synergy. Let me dial that back a little bit. We have a little bit of a synergy attack there. Void Shatter, where I believe Sephiroth uses some of his magic, puts it on Cloud's sword, and then Cloud strikes from there. Here we go. Check this out. And look at this. Oh, and he got knocked out of it, but you see how that works.
Show 'em what we can do.
We see how that works. Focus thrust. We see a lot of the classic moves are still here.
Crazy creatures on this mountain.
Thanks to all the Mako, no doubt.
Oh, yeah. Let's move forward a little bit on it. As we can see, the stagger is still a thing. Check this out. I want more. That's okay. Let me dial this back a little bit. I want more sort of cinematic combat. Again, not to the point that it overwhelms the hands-on combat, but I want more cinematic combat like we see right here.
Just hold on. On me.
Like, so cool, dude.
Done.
Like, come on, dude. That's some cutting-edge stuff right there. And, you know, not everything needs to be a reaction command. Not everything needs to be a reaction command. Sometimes you just drop a dope cutscene in the middle of a battle. Okay, we got about 3 minutes left of this clip.
Pretty mobile.
Let's move things up a little bit. Again, because we're seeing, you know, because this is a tutorial segment, a lot of the combat stuff we're seeing is stuff we're used to seeing from OG, stuff we saw from Intermission, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. Oh, but that was a sick move. Gives a cool arcadey feel. Oh, yeah. Let's move these things forward a little bit. Here we go. Got him.
Nice work.
Like straight up Zack body language right there. You could see it. Okay, so that seems to be part of the tutorial, or at least the Nibelheim segment, as we call it. Cinematic cutscenes that still have the battle HUD on screen is so cool to me, like the Xehanort fight in KH3. The Kingdom Hearts 3 Xehanort fight is a perfect example, dude. Perfect example. Okay, so with that, I want to move on to some of the calm gameplay, or sort of the stuff surrounding that part of the game. Because this is really cool too, man. And we'll get some of the Chocobo stuff too. Just give me a second. Let's take a swig for all the hardworking men and women at Square Enix. All right. Hey, Livid Sid, otherwise known as Sid Lexia, is here. She is upon us. She says, get you a man that talks to you like Sephiroth and looks at you like Cloud. You know, the two have a dynamic. That's for sure. That's for sure. But it's good to see you, Sid. I'm glad you're here. All right, let's start talking about this. So this really kind of encapsulates everything that's surrounding Calm, as well as the Chocobo Ranch. We'll get into that. I'm going to let it roll. And after this, I'll get into my theory. I know we discussed a theory earlier in the podcast. I mentioned I would bring one up. Let's get through this gameplay, and then I'll bring it up. And then if we have time, I'll get into the 45 minutes of gameplay and some of the other stuff I wanted to cover. But let's get into it. So this is the beginning. This predates when we get Yuffie. And we saw this in one of the previous trailers. Which you got, again, you know, with Remake, you could see a lot of the budget, at least visually, aesthetically, went into the character models. But my God, they look incredible here. You got to remind yourself, this is not pre-rendered. What you're looking at is not pre-rendered. These are essentially the in-game models, maybe slightly upscaled for these cinematics, but these are the in-game models we're seeing. Like, gaming has reached a point where the big cutscenes, the in-game models can carry it. You don't need to go to pre-rendered for all the big stuff.
Wow.
And Aerith giving you total Rapunzel
Just
archetype
look at it all.
vibes.
It's so green.
Howdy!
So here we got Billy. Here's our boy over at the Chocobo farm.
It's on the side. Need some chocobos to cross the swamp.
Sorry, Pops, but you're out of luck.
Pops.
Got no more birds. Last one went this morning.
Could have fooled me, kid.
These are spoken for. That or they're not fit for riding. But...
By the way, the Chocobos are adorable. They made the Chocobos so adorable. This is probably the best the Chocobos have ever looked.
I can see you're in a bind, so I'll bump you up the list. For a price, of course.
Which is?
10 grand each.
The thing is, we don't have that kind of money. Or any, really.
Well, there is one other option. Only cost you $1,000.
Wait a minute. Who's voicing Billy? Sounds familiar.
Is what a scoundrel might say. But I wouldn't dream of distressing y'all further. Just so happens one of our birds ran off the other day. Wild thing, but still a fine chocobo. If you can manage to find and catch him, then he's yours. Free of charge.
You sure?
Yeah, why not? Name's Pico, the hardest-headed bird you'll ever meet.
Pico? I love it.
By far. And he's the spitting image of Pops here.
By the way, there's a lot of comparisons between Cloud and Chocobos in this game, and I wonder if the Chocobo fur was built out of Cloud's like hair, like if they took the model of Cloud's hair and used it to make Chocobo fur.
You can start by looking for his tracks. Find those, and you're sure to find the feet that made him. Now, wild chocobos can be a bit skittish around people, but if you play it cool and creep up real quiet like, you'll wrangle them no problem.
So that makes me wonder, and maybe we'll see it here. There's some of this stuff I've gone over, some of it I'm going in blind. I wonder if there's going to be like stealth gameplay. Like he said, you got to sneak up on the Chocobo. Adding stealth gameplay would be a great way to mix up the gameplay loop. Stealth, yeah, Silver Dash, you're on it. Empowered Muse is here. Let's get Em a little shout out here. Em, I hope you're doing well. Welcome to the podcast. I'm sure you're totally hyped for this game.
I think we can do that. Thanks.
And one last thing. This info comes free of charge, provided you promise to stop by our shop. Speak to Chloe back there. She'll sell you whatever you need.
Chloe?
Kid's a born businessman.
If y'all can catch our runaway and get his butt back here, riding and rearing lessons are on me.
Oh, that would be great. It all looks so good. It's really like, it's full, right? Though the world doesn't feel empty. Even in this little Chocobo ranch, you could see shovels on the wall, cart in the corner, feed in the Chocobo little bin here, just bins laying around. It looks like they weren't just trying to make different little tiny hubs. They want it to feel real, like this would be the kind of stuff laying around. All right. I just want a Chocobo farming sim. That's my dream. I mean, if this game does everything right, there'll be like a whole Chocobo farming sim built into the game.
All right, Pico. Where'd you run off?
And I love this, how
You mean
seamless it is
Pico?
to leave the area.
Let's try looking for some tracks.
And you see you got like a truck just like chilling on the side. Again, it looks like a real ranch.
Keep it down. When you're on the hunt, you don't want to startle your prey.
Also, I like that Cloud seems to be taking this role of like the crafty veteran among the crew. You know what I mean? Even though he's one of the younger guys, he's sort of like his head. He's not the brains of the operation, but when it comes to like stealth or combat, he's sort of the brains of that. I think it's cool.
Prey? You know we're not here to kill him, right?
Yeah?
Figure of speech, Aerith. Yeah, look at this. Yeah, no, you're gonna do some real. This is cool. I haven't seen this yet. So you're doing some straight up stealth. Oh, I love this. And this is how you wrangle a Chocobo? This is how we catch Chocobos? Safari Zone style? I think this is cool, man. This is the kind of stuff you want to see. I think the game needs to rely on its combat to keep the player engaged, but mixing it up with stuff like this every once in a while can really, really keep the game from feeling mundane or bored. Picked up a rock. Yo, we're legit gonna do this Safari Zone style? We're legit gonna do this Safari Zone style? Come on, distract him with a rock. Do it. Oh my god, he's gonna do it. Look at this! And it made him turn his back. Now you could sneak up. Dude! Not reinventing the wheel by any means. But that looked fun. Oh, look at you go. My goodness. I want a Chocobo now. And now he's your boy. And they give him the Gyashal greens, keeping it canon.
Aw, isn't he just the cutest?
I love this. I've seen this clip.
You know, they are kind of similar. Totally.
And I love they brought back Chocobo to hip-hop.
What does he want now?
Do you think maybe he's still hungry?
Sorry, that's all the food we had.
They're not only too broke. I love this. This is why they're my favorite little ragtag group of mercenaries in all of fiction. They're not only too broke to buy a Chocobo, they're freaking too broke to even feed one.
But you know where there's more? Bill's place.
Back to the ranch it is then.
Come on.
Now that was cool. I'm glad they showed us that. What else I got? And now
Hey there.
Chadley's back, baby!
What a pleasant surprise.
Chadley's back!
You...
Which Chadley is another one. He's a character I want them to build more into. For those of you who may not know, I believe Chadley is a Hojo clone. He's a clone of Hojo. So I do want to see them kind of build into that lore a little more. I don't want it to just be a fun fact. I want it to really have implications on the story. That maybe there's something going on. Why Chadley wants to take down Shinra. I just want to see it built out more. But let's let this roll.
do remember me, don't you?
How could you say nope? How could you say nope? I have to say yeah. He's my boy. Good.
I knew you would. It was an absolute pleasure working with you in Midgar. Thank you again. Your invaluable intel allowed me to create so much materia. Detecting internal monologue. The hell's this weirdo doing?
So you gotta love that Shinra now has the technology to read minds. Maybe that's just a fun little joke they throw in for Chadley's introduction. But maybe Shinra really has the tech to read people's minds now. Gotta consider that. That maybe this is a way of winking at the audience to let them know. Hojo really is the root of evil in the FF7 verse. Absolutely. Hojo is the real evil. You know what I mean?
I was created by Professor Hojo, you know.
Ah, see, I like it. They're being straightforward about it now.
Though your thoughts could be read by any cyborg. But to answer your question, I took a page out of your book and skipped town. Now, the whole world...
They had the ability to read and share memories back in Crisis Core, but did they have the ability to put on a monocle and read your, like, thoughts in real time? I feel like that's new.
World's my laboratory. Speaking of which, I have a favor to ask, if it's not too much trouble.
You need more battle intel.
That's the Cloud I know. Always eager to get on with it. But yes, though, I'd like you to activate some Remna Wave towers first.
So here's a big deal, and I've been reading about this. So it looks like, just like in like games like Tears of the Kingdom, where you're activating these towers that create pinpoints on the map, it looks like we're going to be doing a similar thing. The map expanding mechanics, yes. Yes, Silver Dash. We're going to be doing pretty much the same thing here in FF7 Rebirth. Which, again, freaking cool, man.
They were originally constructed by the Republic of Junon, but reclaimed by Shinra after the war. Since which time they've sat idle and untouched, just waiting for someone to put them to good use. The more towers you activate around the world, the more my processing power will grow. As will the area I can survey. I might even be able to construct a communications network independent of Shinra.
You gotta love it. I love that Chadley is just the nerd. Because, like, you know, that's one thing the FF7 party is missing. Usually in a party in these RPG games, there's one brainiac. You know what I mean? There's a brainiac that can figure these things out. That can figure out how to keep, you know, the party, how to keep the party under wraps, how to keep everybody safe, create a independent communications network. And the FF7 party really doesn't have that brainiac. And I like that Chadley's really filling that void. You know, you think about Futaba in Persona 5, right? She's a perfect example of like having the techie in your group, you know?
How does that sound? You'd not only be helping me, but yourselves as well.
We find it. We'll turn them on.
Wonderful. I thought you might say something like that. Let's get started then. See that tower? That's your first target. And this will activate it.
Wait, what is it? The Chad module.
As the tower's close by.
The Chad module. I love it. I like how they're trying. Okay, see this I like. I like where you're going with this. I like where you're going with this, C-Man. I like how they're tying in the towers into the actual story. Too many games just have random towers or whatever just because. Yeah, it's actually one of my complaints about Tears of the Kingdom is those towers came out of nowhere. They weren't there in Breath of the Wild, and there was no explanation for how they popped up in Tears of the Kingdom. So I love the idea that they gave you a lore reason that they came from the war, right? That's where these towers came from, and they haven't been used since. And that, like you said, there's an actual story element of tying these towers in. They were building this independent communications network. They were helping Chadley with his data and his research. They're doing everything right, man. They're doing everything right. Look how beautiful this looks. You're just on a... Like, come on, dude.
Oh, y'all must be the ones with Avalanche, right? Roden told me a little bit about you. On the run from Shinra, eh? Seeing as you're here, mind help me with something? I'm Oliver, by the way, owner of this farm. Got fiend trouble. Every night it comes after
Looks
my
like a
livestock.
live side quest.
Fiend's to blame. Think you could find and deal with
Which, that's something that I really want to improve with Remake. Remake had some good side quests. I'd say 50% of Remake side quests were good. The other 50% were a little boring. I hope Rebirth can maybe shift things in the balance of exciting a little bit more.
Not much, save the bastard's smart as hell. Managed to evade every trap I've set. Even hired a hunter to get rid of it, but that was a bust. appreciate it.
And I like that too. They give you the options. You can ask this character to... Yeah, let me actually dial it back a little bit. I actually think that's a really cool thing to bring up.
Even hired a hunter to get rid of it, but that was a bust.
So they kind of give you the option to be as curious as you want. Like, you could have easily just gone to sure, we'll deal with it and be good on that. But they give you the opportunity to be curious, to want more information. What do you know about it? How do you know Broden? Like, you can really interrogate this world and get as much from it as you want. Or maybe you want to play it where, like, you know, you don't need those details. You just say, sure, we'll deal with it. I think, you know, because I feel like sometimes games too often, they fall into this trap where they give you dialogue options. You pick one, that's the one you picked, and you move on. What I like that I'm seeing here is you have multiple options. You can go through as many of them as you want, but you have the one option that will move things forward. I'd like to see more of that. Okay. Very interesting. All right. I want to move on to a little theory I've had in the works, little something that I think may be possible and may be coming in Rebirth. So I know in Rebirth, there's a lot of talk about whether or not... Actually, let me pull this up here before we get talking. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second, yo. So, there's a lot of talk about whether or not we're going to see Genesis in Rebirth. And while I think that is a conversation certainly worth having, you can have that conversation without also asking, can we expect to see Minerva in Rebirth? Now, for those of you who maybe aren't completely up to speed on Crisis Core's ending or who Minerva might be, let's pull up a nice little summary that comes to us courtesy of FinalFantasy.fandom.com, who I think put it pretty eloquently, saying Minerva is a character from Crisis Core FF7. She appears to be a supernatural being who is implied to be related to Gaia's consciousness, Gaia being the planet, right? And is interpreted by Genesis as the goddess described in the epic poem Loveless. She makes a brief appearance in the story and can be fought as a super boss. So, why do I bring Minerva up? Because I think it may even be more likely that we see Minerva in Remake as opposed to Genesis. Now, I have my reasons for feeling this way, and I want to bring them up. So first things first, let's go back to the Rebirth trailer, right? Let's go to those specific moments. I believe the first one is right about here. So we know that Minerva is a being implied to be Gaia's, the planet's, consciousness. Just the way that you have like Genova is a stand-in, you have Minerva who's sort of like a stand-in for the planet. Now, you see in the trailer, twice there's a mention of there being a call. There's a planet's call. I'm going to play both clips right now, and I'm going to explain to you why I think that call may be coming from Minerva herself. So pay close attention to this dialogue. Here's the first part. We'll pull up the second one afterwards.
Just close your eyes and listen. Tell me you can't hear that. Her rallying cry.
Boom. Obviously talking about the planet. Now, why would Minerva have this rallying cry? Well, if she's truly Gaia's consciousness, then everything going on with Sephiroth, Genova, the party severing themselves from fate, it would ignite her to take action. Now, there's another scene later in the trailer. I'm going to pull it up right now. That also goes over this. That also alludes to this, is what I should say. I might have gone too far. We'll find it. Just hang tight with your boy. Okay, let's dial it back right about here. This is where we'll hear it. Pay close attention. Hojo, I believe, is the one saying this voice line, where he brings up the call again.
Are having a little get-together.
Okay, I didn't go back far enough. I think we got to go back to about here. Let's take it from here. And now listen again. They bring up the call one more time.
So you heeded the call too, did you?
Boom, right there. You heeded the call too, did you? Now...
What are you talking about?
As you can see, Your brothers down there are having a little get-together.
So, maybe there's two different calls going on. Maybe it's the same call. But we know that Hojo there is quite obviously referencing the Sephiroth clones in the Black Hood. Your brothers down there, right? He's kind of taunting Cloud with that idea. So, getting back to Minerva. Everyone talks about, again, whether or not we're going to see Genesis. Are we going to see Genesis in Rebirth? Again, the Rebirth color scheme seemed to match Genesis's color scheme. But to me, I actually think, again, as stated before, it's probably just as likely, if not more, that we'll get to see Minerva, right? So let's consider Minerva and Genesis for a minute here. What happened between Minerva and Genesis? Genesis was ready to meet his end after the battle with Zack. He thought that he was dying, merging with the life stream, moving on into the next life. But what happened? Minerva sent him back. Sort of this idea of like, your mission isn't done. Your time has not come yet. This is not your fate. There's still something I need you to do. You know, and you almost see it, right? You almost see it in Genesis's face, right? Now, for those who may not know, the ending of Dirge of Cerberus, which is the furthest point on the compilation's timeline, right? You have the original compilation, which covers everything from Before Crisis to OG, Advent Children, Dirge of Cerberus, and Dirge of Cerberus is the furthest point in that timeline. The final scene that we see in Dirge of Cerberus is of Genesis, sort of implying that his work isn't done yet. So I think with everything that's going on, Zack is in play, Advent Children Sephiroth is in play, and Aerith that has memories in play, you cannot convince me that there isn't some sort of Genesis/Minerva hand in play as well. And that maybe this rallying cry that Barrett mentions in the trailer, this cry that Hojo mentions is sort of connecting with the Sephiroth clones, that it may not all come back to Minerva at the end of the day. You know? Because again, Minerva is heavily implied to be connected to Gaia's consciousness. And in a way, the way that Genova sort of has a form that we can reference, Minerva, in a sense, gives us a form for the planet that we can reference as well. So again, that's just where I'm coming from. You guys let me know what you think about it, because I think, again, seeing Genesis may very well be likely, but I think seeing Minerva, or at least feeling Minerva's influence, is equally, if not more likely, in the future of Rebirth as well. But again, you all let me know what you think of that. I'm going to clip that out right here. So you guys let me know what you think of that, and whether or not you expect to see Genesis and or Minerva in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Okay, but let's get to the chat, see what you guys are saying. I really hope you're right about Minerva, because she is still such a wild card that we really don't know a whole lot about. Again, she's a perfect example. We've talked about this we just talked about it with Chadley. We've talked about it with Yuffie and Vincent, that they have a chance now to flesh out so many of the things that they didn't have a chance to flesh out before. Minerva being a big example of that. The second half of Genesis's arc, which is missing, being a big example of that. So again, I really think seeing Minerva, if not a safe bet, is a relative bet. I give it 50-50. I give it 50-50. All right. I want to see where are we at right now. An hour and 35. We got some time. We can keep going. Let me see what else I can pull up for you guys. Oh, big news. Big news I wanted to cover. Big news I wanted to cover today, and I'm glad we're covering it. Okay, guys, this is huge. Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis, which, you know, I know this is a podcast all about Rebirth, but Ever Crisis is clearly connected to Rebirth in some way. But I want to bring this up. Too. Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis, they are developing a Steam port. Which is brilliant, because as someone who's been playing Ever Crisis, this game is far too good to stay glued on my phone. It's just too good of a game to keep on my phone. The fact that they're making a Steam port to bring this to everyone's PC is amazing. It is a perfect example of Square Enix giving the fans what they want. So I think this is huge news. I'm very happy it's happening, to say the least. And for those Kingdom Hearts fans out there, maybe something similar might happen to Missing Link. I really, really, really hope so. You know what I'm saying? So let me see what else I had pulled up that I wanted to cover. All right. So let's give a little shout out. I should have included this in the episode description. I'll modify that momentarily. But I'll throw this in the chat. A lot of this comes from the Twitter profile. Taiki Mochi, also known as Audrey. She translates a lot of stuff over on Twitter. So she's been a very useful resource during these times. I want to read some of the things that she's been posting. And we won't be able to get to all of it. I imagine, I mean, maybe we do. Who knows? But I imagine there will be a lot. So, Kitase talks about when we can expect the FF7 Rebirth story during the Samsung Tokyo Game Show interview. Here's the quote. The story follows Cloud and the others as they journey across the lands to find Sephiroth and see exactly what are his true intentions. As a result, fans of the original game will also be able to compare the story in Rebirth and with the OG and see exactly how the story unfolds. Since the story will go up until the Forgotten Capital, for those who played the OG, they might think, whoa, it's going to end at the Forgotten Capital? No way! Again, they keep playing into it. I know a lot of this is a little bit repetitive, but if you've noticed, it doesn't matter the interview. They keep pointing you to the scene at the Forgotten Capital. They keep pointing us there. What lies waiting for us there, to me, is not what was waiting for us in OG. Something different is going to happen. Okay, moving on to the next one. Baby Chocobo. Do you see it? Do you see it in all of its glory? A baby Chocobo? Come on, man. Come on. Silver Dash says Missing Link on Steam doesn't sound too convincing considering the whole walk around outside to fight the Heartless. Correct, unless you're able to connect your Steam account to your phone. Right? And then you could do the walking on your phone and the more stationary content at the comfort of your PC. Right, Em? Isn't it so cute? Isn't it so cute? Look at him! Look at him! Anyway. Okay. This was an interview I wanted to cover. I don't know if we'll have time to cover this on this episode. I need some more bite-sized content to get into. Let's check this out. That's right. So check this out, guys. There is a piano playing minigame in FF7 Rebirth. And I believe this minigame is going to teach you how to play certain songs. But I also believe there's a free play mode where you sort of can free play whatever you want on the piano. This is the kind of stuff I talk about where I'm like, there's so much in this game. What the hell? Right, Silver Dash? Right? This is what I'm trying to say to you guys where I'm like, I'm going to need 2 episodes. This is going to take 2 episodes. There is so much here. Feel bad for the Tifa fans for what's coming? I don't think we lose Tifa, Timon. I think we'll be threatened with losing Tifa, but I don't think we lose Tifa. People are going to go off on that piano. That's what I'm saying, dude. You can change the key. You can change the octave. Like, it's ridiculous what they're doing. But this is the kind of stuff I talk about where I'm like, this can really break up the gameplay. This way the game never feels old, never feels repetitive, never feels like padding, just feels like no matter what, there's something for you to do. So I think this is really cool. Let's see what else we're working with. I pulled up so much of this stuff today. Okay, here we go. Oh, you know what? Let's take a pause on this kind of content. There was something else I wanted to cover. If you guys don't mind, I'm going to take a quick break so I could run to the bathroom real quick. But I actually wanted to talk about Yuffie's introduction in Rebirth. They showed us the scene, how she's introduced to the party. I do want to talk about that a little bit before we wrap up today. But I'm going to take a quick little bathroom break if you guys don't mind. So, as is customary, please enjoy this virtual walk with Kobe. Okay, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for waiting that one out. A bit of a quick break, but let's keep it going. Let's see what the chat has to say, and then I wanted to kind of bring up this sort of introduction in this boss battle, because I think it's pretty cool. All right, my God, how adorable. That was the Chocobo chick. The FF7 team has been given all hits with this rollout. Seriously, there's too much. There's actually too much. Okay. Game Changer made it just in time to say what the dog doeth. I'm so glad you're here, dude. It's been a wild episode. We're gonna do 2 FF7 Rebirth episodes covering all this because we're an hour and 45 minutes in. There's still a 45-minute gameplay clip I haven't touched. There's tons of like news and press stuff that I haven't touched that I want to get to. So we'll get to that soon. But I'm glad you made it just in time. I think we're going to have Jenova transform from Tifa, and we'll have a short segment where it appears Tifa is dead, and long has been before the real Tifa finds the party. Yeah, something like that. We did see Sephiroth / Jenova morph into Tifa in the OG. There wasn't a whole lot that got coupled with that, but I do think this time around, the whole Jenova's ability to morph into different people is going to be much heavier, and I think it's going to be used to confuse the party. Okay. The cute good boy is keeping us occupied while Landy is on break, and it's working. It is. It's the best. It's the best be right back screen I can give you. JK, my man. What is up, dude? Glad you're here. Game Changer says, was at school, been going back to school every weekday. Hey, good for you, man. Good for you. Staying on that grind. All right. Let's talk about this. I've had a lot of positive things to say. I think 99% of the shit that's come out of my mouth has been positive. I do have something negative to say about what we're going to watch. I have a lot of positive to say, but I'll quit yapping. Let's let this roll for a minute. Okay. Look, maybe I'm misunderstanding something. Maybe there is some context that makes this better. I don't like how helpless Yuffie is acting. I don't like how helpless she's acting. She's on a little rowboat. I get it. She's out at sea, and there's this big monster circling the little rowboat. I get it. But Homegirl fought Nero in the goddamn Shinra underworld. I'll say it again. Yuffie fought Nero in Shinra's deep ground underworld. This sea monster should not scare her. She has seen way worse shit. Again, maybe there's missing context, right? Maybe there's something that happens before this that we're not caught up on. Maybe she feels useless without materia. I don't know. All I'm saying is, I don't think this was the way to introduce her. I think the way to introduce Yuffie would have been, let her be a thief. Let her steal. Imagine she stole the Buster Sword, right? And now you're forced to use every party member but Cloud, right? I know a lot of people theorize that she would steal the party's materia, and we got to find her that way. Who knows? Maybe she did do something like that here. I don't know. But I don't like that the party's introduction to her is that she feels helpless on this boat. Again, just in the intermission gameplay DLC alone, she's faced much worse, thought much worse. She's stared down the face of monsters way scarier. Silver Dash is bringing up a good point worth addressing. Says she was motion sick on the Highwind in OG. Maybe same thing on the boat, so she's kind of helpless there. Correct, but I don't quite buy it because she's not. Again, she's on this. I don't know. I'm not quite buying it here. Why then? Why does Jenova scare her? Well, Jenova scaring her to me makes way more sense because Jenova can take the shape of your loved ones, right? Jenova could take the shape of Yuffie's dead mother, and that would send anybody running for the hills. You know what I mean? However, it's a sea monster. Oh, it's a sea monster. Don't get me wrong, she should be a little worried. She could be asking for help, but I don't know. It just, to me, it doesn't seem like a good way to really introduce her. That's all I want to say. It's nitpicky. I know it's nitpicky, but let's move on and see what this scene holds. Like, Yuffie can swim. All the party members can swim. You know? Like, she's fine. You know what I mean? Okay. I love that the dolphin is back, and the dolphin looks adorable. Very well done. You know? We always wonder what they're going to include from OG, what they're not going to include. I am delighted that the dolphin is back. Delighted.
Yuffie! Grab his fin and hold on tight!
Priscilla, too. It's good Priscilla is back. She kind of comes with the dolphin, comes with the territory. Dolphins are psychopaths. No wonder Yuffie was afraid. For real, though, dolphins are not friendly, not very friendly.
Hey, we're coming!
Hey, Shinra's most wanted.
You see, that's my thing. It's just hard for me to buy what I'm seeing. Like, the fall Yuffie just took was a fraction of the size of the fall she took when she fell in the collapsed building at the very beginning of intermission. I don't know. It just... it's a tough sell for me. I think Yuffie's tougher than this. I could be wrong. Just keep it rolling.
Get rid of that thing. Barrett, focus.
Get its attention. On it.
And this boss battle looks cool, man. Compared to the last boss battle we saw, just the Cloud, Sephiroth, and Nibelheim. This boss battle we're about to see here, we won't watch the whole thing. But when we break it apart a little bit, I don't know, man. Just looks wild. And again, this seems to be very beginning of the game. This is Junon Harbor, one of the first places we go. So this will be one of our first boss battles. And look, I gotta say, I'll be interested to see how aerial combat is handled with a boss like this.
Got a whole heap of land with your name on it.
Fish got a rooster head. Yeah, it's a scary looking thing. Get a little Red 13 gameplay. Oh, okay. Some cool abilities from Red. Let me make the screen a little smaller. See, the stagger mechanic is still here, which is good to see. I think stagger is amazing for action games, particularly the Square Enix ones. I think they're the masters of the stagger mechanic. Because the whole idea of, like, you gotta, like, inch your enemy towards getting staggered, and it's only when they're staggered that you really can bring on the onslaught of damage.
Don't stop now.
I love it. She could be scared of that monster because it reminds her of Leviathan, since it's Wu-Tai's deity, right? Yeah, this is what I mean, where it's like, if they add a little bit of context, I'm willing to accept that I'm missing context, or that something happens before that makes this a little better. Maybe she lost all of her materia, stuff like that. I don't know. But maybe there's some context that makes it better. Where does Rebirth take place in the timeline? Could it be pre-Badass Yuffie? It's post-Badass Yuffie, because it takes place after the intermission DLC from FF7 Remake, where Yuffie was more confident. Like, she's had her confidence broken for things that happen in intermission, but Yuffie is a pretty headstrong character. She is a kid at the end of the day, and this might be their way of illustrating the fact that she's still a kid, because that is important for them to illustrate. She is like the baby of the party. Out of everyone in the party, she's kind of the baby. So, might be what they're trying to illustrate. Okay, keep it rolling. Let's move this up a little bit. You know, I think there's some clips out there where whoever's fighting this boss actually dies. But it's kind of cool to see the party disperse. Like, it looks like the party member AI is also smarter. Because I see them all doing different things, right? Like, Cloud was attacking the main boss, but Barrett was attacking that water cell that needed to be dealt with. I think that is pretty cool to see the party kind of divide themselves up automatically. Seaman says maybe she was potentially or temporarily weakened after her deep ground adventures. I mean, Nero is a straight up monster after all. Again, this is what I'm saying, where it's like, If there's just some context that's added that can flesh it out a little more, you can sell it, but I'm not buying it outright. I need to read the fine print. All right. Got a little bit of time left here. Here's our little cutscene. Oh, let's go. I love this. This I saw. This I saw. The dolphin! You love to see it. Classic ending. Buster Sword slices right through him. And then we got a little dolphin. A dolphin and a rainbow. You love to see it. You love to see it. But again, that's pretty cool. Again, it gives you another look at a little bit more of an advanced boss battle compared to the Materia Guardian. And you got to see Yuffie's introduction, which is a little weird. Like, I'm not quite sure how they're playing it. You know what I mean? A lot of positives. Mostly positives from everything we've discussed here today. But I'm not sure how they're gonna sell that. Okay. Let's see. Let's bring it back to some of these interviews and the stuff that was said in interviews. We got a little bit of time left. We're coming up on 2 hours, but we got some time. All right. Kitase explains on the FF7 Rebirth Samsung stream how exactly the scenario and game development tasks are shared between the devs as well as minigames. When writing the scenario, Kitase, Nomura, and Nojima work together to decide what story elements to include, what can be expanded on, and what can be shown less. So again, I know there was a lot of discourse about the amount of influence Nomura is going to have on this game. He's right there in it. Right there with Kitase and Nojima. So, personally, I'm very happy about that. They make sure the balance between the story's beats are well thought out. After the scenario is decided, the story is then handed off to the game development side, where Hamaguchi gives the green light for it to be developed. Kind of what we were talking about earlier when we were going through the comments. It seems like guys like Kitase, Nomura, and Nojima, they're the ones making these story decisions, these creative decisions, and then Hamaguchi is the guy who makes it happen in the room, makes it happen in the devs room, you know? Do you have time to watch Here Come Kevin's Theory video? Or are you saving that for another time? Does it have to do with Rebirth? Is it Rebirth related? Because I'd be happy to cover it when we do the follow-up podcast. The Yuffie thing does stick out, though, because there are so many positives but not much negatives. That's why it stands out like a sore thumb. Because I'm looking at everything they're doing, and I've said it multiple times. I'm like, they're doing everything right. But then I see that Yuffie thing, I'm like, doesn't quite sit with me. It's Kingdom Hearts. Then we're going to do that on the Audience Theories episode, which we're going to do next month. Be on the lookout for that. But anyway, let's keep this going. As for the mini-games, Kitase, Nomura, or Nojima do not have much input on, as they primarily focus on the overall main story. Hamaguchi and the dev team are in charge of deciding on what to do with mini-games. Hamaguchi says Rebirth has a lot more mini-games than FF7 Remake, which again puts us right back to what we were talking about before. Hamaguchi is very gameplay focused, while Nomura, Kitase, Nojima are deciding the story elements, plot, characters, story beats, things like that. You know, we see that all over again right here. Interesting stuff. Moving on. Let's see what else we had pulled up. Here we go. Hamaguchi mentions in the Samsung stream that in FF7 Rebirth, you have a lot of player choice that allows you to control how you want the game to play out, whether you want to focus on the main story or the side quests. This concept of player choice is also carried over to story elements, such as who you go on the date with at the Golden Saucer Ferris wheel scene. He hopes that this player freedom and choice allows for a better and fun experience with the story, even more so than 7 Remake. Okay, could you link this video in chat so I can watch it after this live stream? Which video? I'd be happy to link the video for you. Just let me know specifically which one. Getting back to this, you know, Remake had some parts where the player choice influenced the story, like you choose whether to wake up Tifa or Aerith first, depending on decisions you made, decides if you get the Tifa, Aerith, or Barrett cutscene at Aerith's house. I want to see more of that. And I think that's what they're alluding to here, is it's not just going to be the date scene at the Golden Saucer, that so much of what you're going to choose is going to dictate certain things. Empowered Muse says, I think something deeper is going on with Yuffie that'll be revealed later. Maybe a slight foreshadowing? Who knows? I'd be interested in hearing more. That could be crazy. The Here Comes Kevin Theory video. Drop it. Game Changer, can you drop it in the Discord? I think the Discord will be the best place to put that because it's Kingdom Hearts related. This is a Final Fantasy stream. So throwing that in the Discord will be a good place for it. Moving on, we have... That's it. These areas. I wanted to look at these. Oh, boy. Let's shrink these down a little bit. Guys, come on. This is in-game. Look at it, man. We're going to get to explore all of that. Dude. Let's move on to some of the other ones. There we go. Junon Harbor, looking good. Although we saw this in some of the gameplay stuff. And I mean, look at that, dude. That's where it's like, I know these areas aren't gonna... Bro, where's the Discord? Let me get you the Discord link. I got you, bro. Don't you worry. I got you. I'll throw it into both chats so anyone who wants to join can. Here's the link to our Discord for all the sickos and normies. Let me drop it in the chat. Okay. Oh, I see you guys are popping off in here. Holy hell. Adonai and me too. You guys are going crazy. Okay. Getting us back to where we were. I know it's not likely, but how cool would it be for an alternate endings based on choices made in game? That would be cool. I don't think they're doing it because there's no way you can compensate for player's choice in the third title. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's a huge improvement over remake. Huge. And like, look at the golden saucer, dude. Like, you just don't get much better than that. It all looks so beautiful. But honestly, this first landscape, this is the one that really got me, dude. This is the one that really, really got me. You feel me? Alrighty. That brings us to about 2 hours, which means it's time to wrap up. Yeah, so look, we're going to have to do this in 2 streams. Because I think we have another 2 hours to talk. Like, I could keep this going and let it be 3 hours, but then that only leaves I don't know if it leaves enough for the second episode. I want to make sure I include everything. Because again, there's so much we didn't discuss. Like, I've got this whole 45-minute gameplay.
Raiden and Rear
Let me mute this. We covered some of it, but there was some... Oh, wait, is this the right one? No. This is the one. With the artwork, which was so cool. We didn't even talk about the artwork. Guys. There's still so much. But again, there's a lot more gameplay here. You know, just include some of the nibble stuff that we covered. You know, but then we have this stuff, which we didn't really cover, this outside of Junon. So much stuff here that I want to cover in another stream. We get another look at the pause menu, as you guys saw, which looks so cool. You kind of got your main party up front, and then you're going to have like your reserve party in the back. I see they are keeping it with 3 party members to a squad. They haven't upped us up to 4. But again, there's so much here. There's way more posts and stuff that ITK Mochi and many people on Twitter have posted that I want to go over. But there's just so much, guys. So much. So I don't know when I'll do the episode. I might do it tomorrow. I might do it next week. I don't know. I got to really think about it. But there's a second one coming. I've got another Kingdom Hearts podcast in the works. Kingdom Hearts video in the works. Lots of stuff coming down the pipeline, guys. I'm excited for it. C-Man says, that's fine. I need some time to process anyways. My brain is so overwhelmed right now. I'm still thinking about the Minerva theory from 20 minutes ago. Yeah, dude, now you just got a taste of where my head is at, man. You know, when I started this podcast episode and I told you guys I was overwhelmed with everything that was here, I wasn't kidding. There is so much. So we'll end this episode right here, give everyone a chance to recharge, process everything we talked about. We'll do another episode that's got more FF7 stuff. But again, thanks so much for hanging out, guys. I love doing these streams. I love doing these podcasts. I love hanging out with all of you. So without further ado, let's do a little raid over on Twitch. We're going to raid Andy Brew. He's playing the finale of Final Fantasy X right now. You don't want to miss that over on Twitch. Everybody who's hanging out on YouTube, thanks so much for chilling. Minerva has been looming over me for ages. Heyo. Anyway, thanks for hanging out, everybody. This was awesome. Keep your eyes peeled for the next FF7 episode, the next Kingdom Hearts episode, an Aqua video coming, a Missing Link video coming. I'm going to clip that Minerva theory and upload it on the channel tomorrow just to kind of get that going. But anyway, we're going to wrap it up here, guys. Thanks for hanging out. I'm done with my yapping. Peace out. We will see you on the next one.